And we are back once again this week. We are discussing advanced criminal law. I am Wolfe, as always, and I am always joined with Brennan.
Hello.
I goofed that up so bad.
You want to start over?
I don't have to start over.
Wolfe and Brennan in the morning.
And we are back once again this week. We are discussing advanced criminal law. I am Wolfe, and as always, I am joined by Brennan.
Hello.
There we go. We'll fix that in post. Anyway, so today we're watching... No, we're not watching. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place today.
We are discussing Season 1, Episode 5, Advanced Criminal Law.
Yes, thank you, Brennan, for taking over. I've had a wild few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. But despite the circumstances, I am still here. I am still alive. I was not in any danger. But
Glad you weren't.
yeah.
I've
taken
transfer that into Old White Man Does.
Ooh, Old White Man Does. Yes, we love this.
Because I was in danger.
Oh.
So I'm gonna pull an audible and do a different one that we talked about beforehand.
Okay.
But so a while ago, like I think last week, we had a residence pendant saying it was a low battery. So I went in there. I went out to her room to check on her, make sure it was working, change the battery and all that. Knock on the door, no answer. And so when there's no answer, you got to do a wellness check. Mm-hmm. Especially on this floor, because it's the memory care kind of hospice kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So unlock the door. Well, I knock, wait for like 2 minutes, because sometimes it takes them a while to get to the door, or they don't hear it, so you got to knock louder. Nothing. So I unlock the door, open up the door, and she is standing right there with a butcher knife raised above her head, ready to stab whoever enters her apartment. So I just closed the door and backed out slowly and walked away.
Yikes!
So that was an experience. Obviously, after I told the nurses and during her next bath time, they took all of her knives away. But yeah,
good.
Yeah. So that happened. That's Old White Man Does for this week.
Oh my gosh! I was also threatened with a knife once. By my now ex-girlfriend. But it wasn't it wasn't the reason why we're exes. Mm-hmm. But I had just been hanging over at her apartment, and I was at her apartment. It was dark out, and I was like, all right, I'm going home now. And we were like, okay, bye. And then I left. I pull out of her apartment complex, and I'm realizing, fuck, I left my water bottle on her couch. And it's dark out, and I know that she pulls out knives or whatever to make people feel scared and not basically make it so they think, oh, if we mess with her, we're in danger, right?
Yeah.
To ward them off.
Yeah.
And I knew she did that. And so I tried to call her to let her know, hey, I left my water bottle at your apartment. I'm coming back to get it. Mm-hmm. And then she didn't answer. She was on the phone with someone else. So I was like, I'm going to get a knife in my face as soon as she opens this door. And I knock. She opens the door. First I see the knife, then I see her. And and then she realized, oh, it's you. I don't have to have this knife in your face anymore. And I made sure to step back from the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So unlike your situation, I knew there was a knife coming.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And then I got my water bottle back, and then I left, and it was all good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so yeah.
All right. We want to get into the episode?
Yeah, let's get into the episode before it gets too late. So I'll do the recap as always. Right. So for Advanced Criminal Law, in this episode, the college now has a statue of alumnus Luis Guzman, and so the dean puts Annie in charge of the school song. That is not yet written. They don't have a school song, but they will by the end of the episode. Pierce offers to write it, so Annie turns to him for help. Meanwhile, Cheng has found a crib sheet with the answers to the Spanish test and threatens the grades of everyone in the class if the perpetrator does not reveal themselves. Britta admitted to having the crib sheet, and she faces disciplinary tribunal, with Jeff representing her as legal counsel. They let her go free, and Pierce rips off Bruce Hornsby to complete his Greendale song, because he cannot write anything original.
Absolutely.
While all this is happening, Troy tries to mess with Abed, who is clueless, and then Abed tries to mess with Troy by pretending to be an alien and freaking Troy out. So he's just like, Abed, friends don't mess with each other anymore, okay? And Abed happily agrees to that, and that's the way it Greendales.
Mm-hmm. Nice pun. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. So
I have overall notes for the episode, and then I'll have just different bits that I like about character moments, funny things, and then we'll go over trivia at the end.
Yeah.
Like
all
always.
right.
Okay, so my first note, we have 3 plots again.
Yeah. We've got Troy and Abed obviously messing with each other.
Yep.
We've got Britta cheating and then being put on trial.
Yep.
And what was the other one?
Annie and Pierce.
Yes, Annie and Pierce writing the song. Yeah.
And yeah, clearly the A plot's with Britta and Jeff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're the 2 main characters right now.
Yeah. I would say the B plot is more Troy and Abed, and the C plot would be Annie and Pierce.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad you figured that out, because I was struggling which one would be considered A and B.
Well, Troy and Abed got more screen time.
Yeah, they got similar lengths of screen time, which is, I think, why I was like, which one is B, which one's C? But I guess
Troy and Abed was more memorable as well.
That's true, yeah. They had the more memorable ones. So, yeah, I agree. So we'll call that the B plot. Yeah. And then the C plot, Annie and Pierce. A plot, Jeff and Britta. Oh, man, Shirley got a back seat this time.
Yeah.
She hasn't really been very prominent in a lot of these episodes.
She hasn't been prominent since her episode with Jeff.
That's true, yeah.
So, this one is Britta's episode with Jeff.
Yeah, so, yeah, because Shirley was in last week's episode, Social Psychology, and was very prominent in that. Mm-hmm. She was not very prominent in Introduction to Film. Mm-mm. And she was somewhat prominent in the episode before, because she and Annie were doing that protest. And then, of course, she got about as much screen time as, Pierce and Annie and Troy in the first episode.
Yeah.
But, man, I think we've not seen very much of Shirley so far this season.
Yeah.
I think so far she might be the study member with the least screen time.
I would agree with that, yeah.
But yeah, those are the 3 plots, and there's a lot of great character growth or character reveals in this. Character background reveals, I mean.
Yeah. Even just character reveals.
Yeah. So, Jeff helping Britta not just to sleep with her, but to be her friend.
Yeah.
Was, a great moment for him. Mm-hmm. And it also, it showed a bit of maturity, and my cat is playing with Legos in the background, so... I'm trying to... Anytime I edit the podcast, I try to remove all the background noise I can. But even right now, I'm editing the 3rd episode as we're recording this. And, yeah, you probably heard that, Brennan.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I try to edit out what I can, but sometimes the background noise happens when I'm talking, so I can't really take that out, because then I remove me talking, which everyone would probably love, but... But anyway, so I was talking about Jeff helping Britta not just to sleep with her, but to be her friend. It shows some growth for him, and it also starts to set up a genuine friendship for Jeff and Britta, even though in the last episode he was talking about trying to be a good friend. Mm-hmm. I have a couple reasons why I think this should have been the 4th episode instead of the 5th, and Social Psychology should have been the 5th episode, and this is one of them.
I could see that.
Because, Jeff is clearly set in episode 4, Social Psychology, to, be her friend. In episode 5, he's still kind of on the fence. Mm-hmm. So I think, in my head, they should have been switched, but there's another reason for that, which we'll get to in the trivia. Because I don't want to share that yet.
All right.
Another character moment I saw was character growth-wise, Troy realizing how to be a better friend to Abed through the B plot. Yeah.
That was a great plot. That's honestly probably my favorite plot of the episode. Troy and Abed.
That's valid.
Messing with each other.
It is a fun side plot. I do love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy's realizing, okay, we're not going to mess with each other anymore, Abed. And then they do the handshake. For the first time.
Yep. They do the actual handshake, not that weird half-effort one that was a few episodes ago.
Yeah. No, it's the first time we see the full handshake, and it is awesome. And it is such a great moment, too. I think they built up to that really well this episode.
They did.
The other character growth moment I noticed is that Pierce finally admits that he's not perfect and he might not be as great as he tries to convince others that he is. Because this whole time he's bragging about, oh, I have hypervirility, like my sperm shoots through the egg, or like I'm the CEO of Hawthorne Wipes, or like I'm going to show you how to sneeze like a man, different stuff like that. And now finally, after bragging about being the one who recorded Hawthorne Wipes' jingle, or no, not recorded, the one who wrote Hawthorne Wipes' jingle, then finally admitting, I ripped it off. I'm not, like, he can play instruments, but he can't write music to save his life.
Yeah.
Pierce doesn't really get much character growth in the series. Like, he's definitely meant to be that kooky old man. So I do appreciate the character growth we get, and getting this moment with Pierce, I really like that. It's like, okay, Pierce isn't just a one-dimensional kooky old man. He's also a person still.
Yeah. On the DVDs, in the bonus features, they have like an alternate scene, two alternate scenes of when Annie comes in and talks with Pierce the first time about the song.
Oh.
And I didn't write this down, so I'm trying to remember what... I was watching the commentary earlier today, and Dan Harmon was talking about how the version we got was very watered down, because the executives didn't like it, and it was too dark for the show and all that. But basically, the whole goal of it was Annie is the first real friend that Pierce has in this.
Yeah.
And so Annie kind of goes off on him. Well, he treats her awful, says some awful things. And then Annie kind of goes off on him and, like, calls him out on his shit. Saying, like, it's been a while since... I didn't watch the bonus features today. I'm just trying to remember what Dan Harmon said.
I'm going to watch them later because I didn't realize that there was that alternate scene.
It's a lot darker. Like, I remember when I first saw it, I did feel a bit uncomfortable just because of how brutally mean it was.
Maybe we bring that up before we get into Old White Man Does on the next episode. We'll have to both go back, watch it, and then we can actually properly discuss the alternate scene there.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
That would be interesting to see, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Community's ever made me, like, viscerally uncomfortable like that.
There's a few episodes that do make me a bit uncomfortable.
That's fair.
But, yeah. When we get to those, it'll be very clear which ones they are.
Yeah. I think it'll be the same for me.
Yeah. But nothing, like, where it's, like, I'm uncomfortable watching it with people, you know?
Right. And it sounds like the bonus features probably would be.
Yeah, there's a few bonus features where I would not show that to my friends. Like, right now, my small group is going through... Or, not my small group, just a few people from my small group are going through Community. We finished the first disc of Season 1. We finished 4 episodes of the second disc. The next one we have is... So we just finished Season 1, Episode 15 with my small group.
Okay.
So...
I do not remember which one that is.
Romantic Expressionism.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Back to the notes. Okay. Yeah, it was... I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about just now?
We were talking about how Pierce, like, admits that he's not perfect.
Right,
and,
yes.
Like, then we got onto the bonus features with alternate scenes, and Annie gets on Pierce.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some more, like, reveals about, like, character background as well. Like, it was pretty much just Britta and Annie from what I could tell. But Britta reveals that she actually really doesn't have that much self-esteem. Because she does, at least in these early episodes, come off as very confident and sure of herself. But then in the bathroom with Jeff, oh gosh, that sounds weird. When they're in the locker room, we'll say locker room, because that makes me feel a little bit easier about that.
Yeah.
When they're in the locker room and they're trying to come up with their defense for Britta, she admits, like, yeah, like, I think I feel worthless a lot, and maybe that's why I wanted to get caught.
Yeah.
And so that kind of reveals,
She tends to cut and run when she starts feeling unworthy.
Yeah. And it's weird because she's trying to, like, prove that she's unworthy to others, too. Like, by leaving that crib, she's trying to prove to others, hey, I'm unworthy. I'm going to convince you that I'm right about this.
Yeah.
It's probably why she tolerates Jeff's advances for so long, too.
Yeah.
But then, like, Jeff admitting, like, I like you and I would be psyched to be your friend is a really good moment. That shows Britta, oh, maybe I am worth more than I perceive.
Yeah.
And then the other character background reveal is how, like, we kind of see a little bit more of how Annie's family life was.
We did?
Just very briefly. Yeah, well, not very much, but you remember that line whenever Annie goes off on Pierce about, like, how... And she...
Oh, yep.
She quotes what her mom told her when she tried to quit cheerleading.
Yep, I remember now. Okay, yeah.
It's so, like... it's really messed up.
It is.
And, like, it's a funny line, but it also is a line that gives you more, like, background on Annie and what she was going through with her pill addiction, with her family, like, maybe even before the pill addiction, too, I'm not sure. But it's like, oh, man, Annie's mom is a terrible person.
Yeah, it makes you feel really bad for Annie.
Yeah, but it's also such a funny line. Like, this... I love this line for that reason. Like, it's a line that you can laugh at. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's meant to be funny, but it also is kind of tragic.
Yeah.
And it also reveals character information. Like, moments like that in this show that are, like, have multiple purposes for the show. Like, maybe not necessarily multiple story purposes, but multiple purposes, like, for humor, for story.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic, and the show does that really well. Job.
Yeah.
Yes. And, yeah. We also got some new characters in this that are iconic to the show.
Yep. We get Leonard.
Yeah, Leonard.
And then the other one. My brain is shutting down.
Maybe it's just Leonard? Starburns speaks for the first time.
Yes.
He was in a previous episode, but he didn't speak.
I actually wrote a quote down from that.
Yeah.
When Starburns... Which is great because we know him as Starburns. And his quote is, "My name is Alex, dude." And then Chang says, maybe you should spend 5 hours sculpting that into your face.
That's such a good moment.
It is. Apparently, there was a lot longer exchange that they filmed where they just kind of go back and forth at it for like a minute and a half or so, which I would love to see, but unfortunately that was not in the bonus features.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. I just heard about it in the commentary. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of Chang that gets cut out. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Ken does for Chang that just gets cut.
They were talking about in the commentary that the pool room tribunal scene, that it took them 16 hours to film that.
What?
Where a lot of it is just Ken Jeong, Jim Rash, and John Oliver just improvising.
Hey, that's awesome, though.
Yeah. The quote, I believe, during the commentary is by Gillian Jacobs, and she just said, "Watching Ken, Jim, and John Oliver improv for 16 hours was like being at a comedy show that just never ended."
Man, I would have loved to see that.
I don't think my ribs would have appreciated me the next day.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I would love to see some of the like stuff they had to cut out.
Oh, dude, I want to find, like, all of the cut just scenes. Just have them release all of it, you know? That would be awesome.
Yes, please.
Then they've got... Hilarious. Yeah, going back to Leonard. Really interesting thing about his first appearance is that he can't swim in real life.
Oh.
So, basically, the way they filmed that take about 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he nailed it the first time when Dan Harmon was in the bathroom.
Yep.
And that scene that they used in the episode was that first take.
Nice.
But the way they filmed it was there were two people who kind of swam next to him with the paddleboard. When they yelled action, they swam out of view.
Yeah.
And he would sink about 5 inches before it would finally start, like, supporting him. So...
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that part, but I did know that Dan Harmon like kept having them do takes because he didn't see the first one.
Yeah.
And it almost drowned him. Like the actor who plays Leonard, Richard Erdman was his name. It almost drowned him because like he couldn't swim. Even though the audition sheet asked for an elderly actor who could swim.
And I love that he still went for it anyway and got it.
And I'm glad he did because Leonard's so hilarious.
Oh, he's he did such a good job as Leonard.
Yes. Yeah. Rest in peace, Richard Erdman.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was actually Joe Russo who had to tell Harmon, hey, if you do any more takes, he's most likely going to drown. And also, he said the line correctly while you were in the bathroom.
That's great.
Yeah. Oh, and we got Leonard, Starburns. Garrett was in the last episode, but they named him this episode.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, because the last episode he was nameless, and now they've... If you don't remember who he was in this, he was cosplaying as the alien that Abed recruits to help mess with Troy.
Yep. What a great... It honestly kind of foreshadows that one episode where he plays Click Clack. Is that the alien's name in the movie?
Yeah.
I don't think it's Click Clack. No, Click Clack is the Geonosian alien from Rebels. That's not it.
Oh, I don't remember what... I don't remember... I just know that he says Yuba Duba Duba.
Yeah, yep.
But I don't remember what he's named.
I don't remember his name either.
We'll get to it in season 6.
Yep, we'll get there. Eventually.
Yeah.
This also, to my knowledge, is the first time we hear the Dean use his name as a pun.
It is.
Yeah, when he...
Dean you later.
Yep, when he was leaving Jeff and Britta on the couch after telling her about the tribunal. Dean you later.
It's also the first time I think we see his face since the pilot. Because he was on the intercom in the second episode and then has not really appeared since.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think we've seen him in person since.
Which is odd because, especially later on, he's such a big part of the show. And the fact that we've gone 2 whole episodes with no Dean, 3 whole episodes without the Dean physically being there.
It's weird because, like, he originally was just supposed to be an extra who showed up every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I love that they kind of made him a more regular character as the show goes on.
Yeah. That's how all the best side characters go, though.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's funny. I'm going into my funny moments now, but the fact that, like, Duncan last episode, he's like, to Annie, I'm not allowed to date students. And then this episode is like, hey, Jeff, you wanna, what are my chances with Britta? Like, are you 2 an item? If not, or if so, can I sabotage it?
Yeah. And, like, just my first funny moment is the line that immediately follows that conversation, where Jeff just goes, cheers, and then Abed goes, mash, and Duncan goes, Salty Towers, game over. Such a great line, and apparently a lot of people didn't get that joke when it first aired.
Yeah, do you want to explain that for the listeners / me who don't get it?
Basically, it's just a name of 3 different popular shows that they reference throughout the show.
Oh!
Yeah.
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 Because I know they reference MASH, and I thought that's what Abed was talking about, but I don't know why he said MASH.
Yeah. Cheers was a TV show that they mention, or they reference. So is MASH, and so is Faulty Towers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew Cheers was a show. I guess Faulty Towers was the one show I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that joke's even funnier now.
At least that's my understanding of it. I haven't looked this up. It's just what my understanding is, because I know all 3 of them are shows, and they reference them, so
that makes sense. It makes the most sense to me, at least.
Yeah.
Classic Abed not understanding what's actually going on.
Yep.
And also a funny moment from Chang, whenever he's like talking about the crib sheet and stuff. It's actually kind of the inverse of his monologue from the pilot, because in that he's talking about the Asian stereotypes he's not. But then he talks about the Asian stereotypes he is in this episode. Like, you will disrespect my honor.
There is one Asian stereotype that applies to me. Whoever did this insulted my honor. Yes. And then he goes on to say, like, if someone doesn't come forward, Mr. Miyagi here will wax off everyone's scores.
Yes.
Which was a great reference.
Yes. So good. I thought that was funny. And then... Yeah. Of course, after that, when they're discussing who might have been cheating, like who had the crib sheet, and they all just kind of go back and forth, like, it does make sense that they blame Jeff first, but like, Jeff's reasoning also makes sense too. Like, he's not about to do more work to get a good grade. Like, he's like, that's basically learning.
I wrote down this whole conversation. Basically, Jeff says, flattering, but if I'm going to cheat, I'm not going to write information from a book on a piece of paper. That's practically learning.
Yes.
Whoever made that crib sheet wasn't a real cheater and just insecure, and they all look at Annie. And Annie goes, insecure and naive, sorry.
Yeah.
And Annie says, I may be naive, but I'm not stupid. They all look at Troy. And Troy goes, I may be stupid, but I'm not trying to look like I'm not. Which is a great line. He just accepts that he is stupid, and I love that.
Yep.
And they all look at Pierce, and Pierce goes, "Well, I may be a genius, but I'm not a lesbian," and looks at Britta.
That's the
just
one
Pierce
line
that looks at Britta.
Yeah, and Britta's so insulted by that, or like, what?
Yeah.
And it's the first time Pierce ever calls her a lesbian in the show.
Yep.
But it's so funny. Like, that is the one line from that conversation I wrote down, because I was like, Pierce just being so oblivious as always. Just, like, overcompensating for his lack of everything.
Yeah.
In that same conversation, whenever Abed says that Troy is related to Danny Glover
and invented
Obama.
rap music.
Yeah. But, like, some of those things Troy didn't even tell him. He only...
Yeah.
The things that Abed repeated, the only thing that Troy told him, at least on screen, was that Obama, like, he's Obama's nephew.
Yeah.
But then he's also, like, who was it? Luis Guzman called him, and he invented Ferrari. Then Abed somehow gets that he invented rap music and related to Danny Glover.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that they put that line in about Danny Glover on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Donald Glover, who plays Troy, is not related to Danny Glover in real life.
I actually had to look that up this episode. I
did too. I was like, okay, either this is a nod to Donald Glover's brother, because I know he has a brother. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I don't remember his name. I know he has a brother, and I thought, oh, maybe they're referencing the brother. And it's funny because they'd actually be related, but nope. They're referencing the fact that Donald Glover and Danny Glover, two actors with the same last name that happen to be black, are not related.
Yep.
And that's funny too. Like, just to, it was a fun moment.
It was a good little like nod at the joke.
Yes. And Shirley saying that she's shocked that Abed's a racist while she's been telling everyone at her church what a sweet little caramel angel he is.
Yep. That was great.
Shirley.
When Britta confesses to being a cheater, and she goes, "It's not that easy to get human beings to turn on each other," and Chang just goes, "Turn on her," and they all just start throwing paper balls at her.
That was my next note,
amazing.
actually.
In the commentary, Gillian Jacobs was saying that the extras loved that scene because some of those things hit her with force.
Nice. Yes, that was actually my next note, as well as Chang going, "We're too mature to hang around a cheating, lying poop face."
That was my next note. So.
Nice. Okay, we're on the same wavelength this episode.
Then just my favorite like part of Abed messing with Troy is when he's writing in that notebook in that weird like alien language.
Yes.
Troy asks him, "What is that?" And he just goes, "A notebook." He's like, No. What language?" And Abed goes, It's probably Arabic.
I like how he's like, probably Arabic.
Exactly. And the way he like waves his hand and just like, probably, was just amazing. And preceded by Abed's like jump over that bench.
Yeah.
Just to freak Troy out was amazing.
Oh, yeah. It is funny how... So, I remember you were talking about on a previous episode. Damn it, not again.
You're good.
On an earlier episode, you talked about how Jeff joked about Britta seeming smarter than he was when they, like, later in the series. We get that first reference in this episode. He's just kind of like, yeah, so whenever we met, you were up here, one hand up high, and then he's like, but now, like, and then he...
And I was down here.
His hand together. Yep. And then he goes, "Oh, I gave a quarter to a dirty bum today," and puts himself higher than Britta.
Yeah. That was great.
Yeah, that was a good moment. And of course, Deania later.
Yeah, absolutely. That was first of many Dean puns coming up.
Yep. Dean.
Just a Craigular Joe.
Craigular Joe? I forgot that one.
That's my favorite one. So, when the whole, like, during the tribunal, I got three things from that.
Okay.
So, when they ask Mr. Chang and then Professor, and they have that whole argument.
Yeah.
And Duncan keeps calling him Mr. just to piss him off.
Yep.
And then Duncan saying, "Mr. Chang, can you remind us of the events of yesterday?" And Chang proceeds to start the day at 5 a.m.
Damn. Yeah.
So I cut parts of the conversation out because it doesn't really fit. But when Jeff goes, "Objection, my client did not cheat," and then Britta kind of leans over and says something, and he goes, "Yes, she did, but why?" That's the real question, isn't it?
Yep.
And then he just pauses and he goes, "The world wasn't the only thing that changed on September 11th.
Yep. It's just like we talked about 2 episodes ago, how like they were not afraid to talk about reference and joke about 9/11.
Absolutely
8 years
not.
after the fact.
Yeah. And then the last one was, oh, that's funny. Instead of Duncan, I wrote his actual name, John Oliver. Whoops. But when Chang and Duncan are in the showers, and there's just that naked guy next to him showering, and Duncan just goes,
Yes.
you're very confident, I'll give you that. And Chang just looks at him up and down and goes, but you shouldn't be.
Yeah. And the whole time, Chang is, like, staring at this guy's crotch, and Duncan is, like, kind of, like, trying to keep his, like, gaze at eye level with this guy.
Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah, I had that one, too, like, that whole interaction. Also, when Duncan goes, can we talk about this in a room with less balls?
Yeah, that was great.
That's a good moment.
Yeah.
I have one other thing from the tribunal. Actually,
right.
a couple things that you didn't cover.
All right.
Chang's British insults aren't even that good.
No, they're not.
They're awful. Like, John Oliver looks nothing like Ron Weasley or Prince Charles. It's just like Chang's just naming British names that he can think of. Mm-hmm. Very clearly doing that.
Yeah.
And then other moment that I had from there. Yeah, of course we got Leonard, and then Britta opening up about feeling worthless. It's such a good moment, followed immediately by Jeff going, "Your Honor, my client is insane."
So
they don't hang on that moment for long.
No. So apparently, the reason it kind of cuts on the DVD because that's where the ad break was.
Yeah.
And apparently, Dan Harmon was not happy that that's where the ad break ended up. He wanted it to just go straight into Jeff's explanation.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's funnier that it just cuts off that suddenly.
Yeah, it's just like, "Your Honor, my client is insane." And Britta's like, "What?" And then ad break. It actually works out that way.
Yeah, I think it works better that way than what Dan Harmon was explaining it on the commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of the few times I would agree against Dan Harmon.
Yeah, same.
Because he's such a, he's such
a
great vision.
genius.
Yes, he's a comic genius, clear vision for the show.
Yeah.
Like, he is, at least for Community, he has very few bad ideas. Mm-hmm. And that is one of them.
Yeah.
Another moment I liked is how whenever Pierce is writing the song, he's like, "Tell the dean he'll have a song that'll make the devil poop God's pants."
That was such a weird line.
It is. Like, it's like, why would that, like, why is the devil pooping God's pants?
And I've actually got a bit of trivia about that scene.
Ooh, yes.
So the way that Pierce writes songs, it's like he's locked in a room, got paper spread everywhere, insults anyone who walks in. That actually is making fun of Dan Harmon's writing method.
Oh.
So Dan Harmon says that, like, that was the point of that scene, was to make fun of himself.
Nice.
Where his writing method is to shut himself in a room, then procrastinate, and yell at anyone who enters the room. So, Pierce doing that was him poking fun at himself, which was really cool.
Hey, we love it when a show's creator can poke fun at themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, or when anyone can poke fun at themselves. It shows how self-aware they really are.
Yeah.
I'm so sleepy this episode, too. The past 3 nights I have not slept well, but it's okay. We will make it through this. And then the weekend is close. I can sleep in.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to work. It's going to be nice.
I'm excited. Well, I'm done with work for the week, but...
Yeah, you're done with work for the week because you're taking time off. I'm not able to. My work is on mandatory overtime, and when you're mandatory overtime, you can't take off.
That sucks.
Yeah, so you have to... But you're warned when mandatory overtime comes. They're not just going to spring it up on you the day of.
That's good.
So, like, the week before, they'll tell you. Then if you want time off during mandatory, that's when you put your requests in. So you can take time off during mandatory overtime. Yeah. You just have to schedule it before the day mandatory overtime starts. And I had no reason to take time off, so I'm not. So But you had a good reason, though. And you're not on... You don't do mandatory overtime, though, at your job. Your job's a bit different.
We have on-call, though. So
yeah,
basically, there's a rotation of the few of us who are on maintenance where whenever something breaks at, like, 2 in the morning and it's urgent, we have to go in and fix it. Like, my first call-in was a resident decided to do her dishes at 2 in the morning for some reason.
Oh, that's odd.
And did not wash the food off of her plate before she put it in the dishwasher. Uh-oh. So the dishwasher got all clogged up and flooded. Ooh. So I get there. I live 3 minutes away from work, right?
That's convenient.
Yeah. I have to be at work by 8 a.m. I wake up at 7:45.
Nice.
So I show up I get the call, I believe at this is almost 2 years ago. After midnight. So I'm already asleep. Get the call. I throw on some sweatpants and a sweatshirt, head over there. I get there within 15 minutes of the call, probably within 10 minutes of the call, and there's water just flooding her apartment. She didn't turn it off. She just left it running.
Oh.
So, yeah. And she's on the 3rd floor, so I was praying that it didn't drip down below, and thank God it didn't.
That is good.
Yeah. So that was a fun little call-in. But yeah, so we get called in. That was my tangent.
Yeah. See, you have calls in, we have mandatory overtime, and that's only when we get behind on product, and it makes sense why they do it. But we also don't have to be on call ever. So every full-time job has something like that. Either you're on call, you have to do overtime, some dumb thing like that.
Being on call, I don't mind it much, just because you don't get called in often. So basically, being on call, you get a $40 kind of fee to be on call. And then on top of that, you get paid time and a half for the time you clock in while being on call.
That's convenient.
So, there have been a lot of weekends. There's a lot of weeks and weekends where nothing goes wrong. So I just get paid $40 for being on call.
That's awesome.
And I didn't have to do anything beyond what I already do. But then there's other times where something blows up, or not blows up, but a toilet gets blown up, or,
Yeah.
And you have to spend 2 hours snaking the whole building. Doing that in the rain at 1 a.m. by yourself. Because you gotta get the main line from the outside.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. And we get time and a half for mandatory overtime. Or any overtime.
Good.
So
that's good.
It's not like you have to work for the same wage, which is, that would be awful. But it's all right. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's get back into the episode.
Yes, back on topic. I've got two more things, so you go ahead.
I've got one more.
Oh, okay.
So you can go ahead with your two.
All right. The first one is just the Asperger's autism thing.
Okay.
So Abed learning about sarcasm was wonderful because Abed was diagnosed, like I said, when I was 4 or 5, and I still struggle with sarcasm to this day. Now, Wolfe, you know Blake, one of our best friends.
Yes.
You know how sarcastic he is.
Yes.
I don't think he knows this, and if he listens to this, he may that may be the first time he hears this.
Congratulations, Blake. You're finding out something about your friends.
Yeah. I just mostly assume that everything out of his mouth is sarcastic. So, I try to figure it out, but if I don't know, I just assume it's sarcastic.
Hey, that's fair.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I've had trouble with sarcasm too. I remember when I first entered high school, people would be sarcastic and they didn't mean ill by it, but I always took it personally and thought they were being insulting or making it made me feel like I was stupid. Yeah. That's what it felt like. And I was like, oh. And then I realized, oh, that's sarcasm. I'm like, well, sarcasm's dumb. Yeah. But then I became sarcastic too. Sometimes my sarcasm is so dry because, again, I don't understand 100% how to do it like a neurotypical person would, or someone without autism. So then people think I'm genuinely being a dick. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, I'm just being sarcastic. But I just deliver it so dryly, sometimes people assume the worst. I'm like, well, now you know how it feels, because that's how I felt when I first encountered sarcasm.
I am exactly the same way. I can't inflect my voice on command, really. So, when I'm being sarcastic, I think I'm saying it in a different tone, but apparently it's not enough of a tone for other people to pick up on, so they think I'm being serious. Yeah. So, there's a scene, which I will avoid spoiling. This is the one I was thinking about. But there's a scene later where Abed struggles with that. Yeah. Well, if you know what scene I'm talking about, I think. Yep. I actually stole his, line at the end, and I use that when I'm being sarcastic, and I can tell people don't know that I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. I do what Abed did, and it most of the time gets a really funny laugh.
Hey, there you go. Whatever works to lighten the mood.
Yeah. And then my last little general trivia is that, Luis Guzman, the statue, the, being a previous alumni and all that. Yeah. That was originally supposed to be Mark Hamill.
I can't believe I forgot to put that in my trivia notes, because I was thinking about that when I watched the episode. It was supposed to be Mark Hamill, but he said, no, don't use my likeness.
Yeah, he turned it down because he didn't want his appearance to be... Like, he wasn't at the point in his career where he felt comfortable using his likeness as just the brunt of a joke for the entire show.
Yeah,
like, in the letter, Dan Harmon was talking about how in the letter he received from Mark Hamill was like, Mark was like saying how much he loved the show, but he wasn't willing to do that at this point in his career.
Fair enough.
Which was really cool. Yeah. It was really cool that he just didn't say no, absolutely not. He gave a reason and complimented him at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last thing is Abed has a quote, "We went over budget for like the prank." And the reason why I wrote this down, it's a funny line. The reason why I wrote this down is because it so accurately describes a lot of the behind the scenes of Community.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They're always going over budget. Like, Dan Harmon, I'm pretty sure, got in trouble because of it multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's all my notes on the episode. I have some more trivia.
All right. Go ahead.
And so, on the commentary for the DVD, Brennan, you'll know this because you've watched it, listened to it. Donald Glover mentions how Troy's character has evolved since this episode.
Wait, and Donald Glover is in this commentary on this episode?
Maybe he's on a different episode. I was just looking up, like, general trivia, so he might have been commenting on a later episode.
I think it was
I don't know.
Gillian that was talking about that in this commentary.
Yeah, but...
Sorry.
I don't know who it was. Yeah,
someone was talking about it. I do remember that.
Someone was, yeah. But how in later episodes Troy would actually have fallen for the prank that Abed pulled on him.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, that's so funny to think. Oh, yeah, like, season 3, season 4, Troy would be like, he would completely believe that Abed was an alien.
Abed's an alien. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
But in this episode, he's a bit smarter than that, and he's like, Abed, I never thought you were an alien.
Yeah. Well, like,
of course, yeah.
To me, I saw him, like, he was genuinely questioning it for a while.
Yeah, a little bit.
And then he just kind of, like, goes back and I'm so like, I never thought you were an alien. I always took it as him, like, trying to be like, I'm not an idiot. I don't believe you're an alien. But deep down, he kind of did think he was. He just didn't want to admit that he thought that.
That would make sense with his character, though, especially as he evolves as the show goes on.
Yeah, like, that's what my perception of it was. There's a TV show called Psych, where it's a very similar kind of thing, where they have Sean... Have you seen Psych, Wolf?
You've shown me a couple episodes.
So, Sean and Gus are investigating a alien abduction, and doesn't end up being that, obviously, but Sean and Gus throughout the episode keep thinking it's an alien, but they don't tell it. They have an agreement with each other where if they say it's an alien, they flick each other in the ear. And it just, throughout the episode, they're trying to find ways to say it's an alien abduction without saying it is.
Yeah.
Because they both know it's insane, but that's where all the evidence was pointing. So... It's a lot like that, where Troy doesn't want to admit that he thought it was, but
that makes
did.
sense. I could see that interpretation.
Yeah. That was my understanding of it.
Fair enough. We already covered Leonard almost drowning while shooting. Another trivia thing, Chevy Chase can't actually play the piano, but he also can play the drums and saxophone.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, we already know that Donald Glover and Danny Glover aren't not related. Yeah. Do you remember when Jeff is talking to the dean whenever he's like, hey, Britta needs legal counsel? He's like, I know I'm not a real lawyer, but compared to this place, I'm Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know who that is? Because I did not until this episode.
I don't either. I'm guessing it's some famous lawyer.
He was one of the attorneys that got O.J. Simpson acquitted of murder.
Oh, okay.
Like, he was one of the dream team that got him, like, to not be, like, penalized for it or whatever.
Okay.
He also happens to be a lawyer who's also defended Mike Tyson in court, a few other celebrities, and is currently as of the recording of this episode, or at least whenever I looked up the trivia, as of 2019, has been on the defense team for Harvey Weinstein.
Oh.
So this guy is basically really good.
Yeah.
And Jeff is referencing him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Another fun trivia fact, it's less about Community and more so about a joke that is made during the tribunal about, like, John Oliver's teeth. Not John Oliver's teeth, about Ian Duncan's teeth, and he's like, hey, British dentistry is not on trial here.
That was a good line.
statistically, Americans actually have more missing teeth than Brits.
Yeah.
And preventative dentistry is actually more accessible in the UK than in the US.
Doesn't surprise me considering our insurance here.
Yeah, our healthcare systems. Don't get me started on it. Don't get me started on our healthcare in the US. Yeah. It's fucked.
Yeah.
It's fucked. Anyway, Americans who can afford more cosmetic dentistry do, and on average, Americans spend more on that cosmetic dentistry than British people do, which actually kind of fuels the stereotype that their dentistry sucks because Americans spend more money on the like appearance side of it, while British people have access to that preventative side. Plus, a lot of people in Hollywood have perfect teeth, so that I think also doesn't help the stereotype because a lot of British actors, like if you watch like Doctor Who, you're gonna you're gonna notice they don't all have perfect teeth like American actors do.
Yeah,
it's because it's not as much of a value there. I have one more trivia piece, and then we can get into the Meow Meow Beans for this episode.
All right.
And it actually has to do with the Luis Guzman statue. It's not the trivia you shared. It's something else. That statue is in the background of the last episode.
It was?
It was. Whenever Britta and Shirley are like whispering to each other and Jeff walks by, then he goes up to Pierce and is like, give me the ear binoculars. It's in the background of that shot.
Oh, interesting.
And it wasn't unveiled until this episode.
That's funny.
And next to Jeff, like, whole, like, being friends with Britta thing, like, in this episode and last episode, this is the other piece that makes me think they intended this episode to be released before Social Psychology.
Yeah.
Those two pieces convince me that, okay, like, they probably meant for this episode to air first, but early on they kind of, like, switched it in shooting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprising because a lot of sitcoms used to do that. They've kind of not done that recently, though, to my knowledge. It's less common now, but back then, unless it was like a show that had the story that carried over from episode to episode, they would just shuffle the episodes sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a very infamous moment in season 3 of Community where they shuffled around the episodes. And a lot of Community fans would know this, but I want to save that for our listeners for when we actually get to season 3. And I'll tell you what it is after the episode, unless you already know.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll tell you when we're done recording. But yeah, so that's all the trivia I had. Any other notes before we get into the Meow Meow Beans?
That's it for me.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll let you go first for Meow Meow Beans.
I gave this episode a 4 out of 5.
Nice. You know what? I had 3 written down, but I think I'm going to go with 4 this episode. Just because, like, I really like the Troy and Abed side plot. And
yep, that's the main reason it bumped up to a 4 for me was Troy and Abed.
Yeah. The other
that's going to happen a lot. Just Troy and Abed are the reason it's a 4.
Yeah. Well, that helped, but I think while I was like writing my notes down and like talking about how Britta and Jeff's characters evolve, we learn more about them, and the character moments we get in this episode, I think, also bump that up to a 4 for me.
Yeah.
Just thinking back on the episode before rewatching it, I was like, this probably is going to be a 3, but because it certainly is better than Social Psychology in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if it was good enough to be a 4 in my opinion, but it is. So I guess we're both on the 4 train this episode.
Yep. We still only have one episode where we disagreed.
That's true. I mean, we're only 5 episodes in, so there's still time, but...
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
That's true.
All
but
right.
yeah, I think we can wrap that up. So don't forget, all who are listening to this podcast, rate the show on Spotify or whatever you're listening on. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you prefer to listen there. We also have a question that we have, like, a little Q&A thing on each episode. I'm not sure how that shows up on podcasts, but if you're able to find it, great. Usually it's just like, what did you think of the episode? How would you rate this episode on a scale of Meow Meow Beans? But sometimes I like to throw in a different one just to change things up. And sometimes Brennan and I will talk about what question to put on there. But yeah, rate the show, interact with our content. We have an Instagram page. We also have a Threads page too, which is like Instagram's Twitter if you haven't heard of it. It blew up like last summer and then kind of fell off, but I figured, you know what, we already have the Instagram. The Threads account is going to like basically make itself because it's tied to Instagram, versus if we had to make a Twitter, I'd have to make a whole new account, and I didn't want to mess with that. Twitter's going down the drain anyway, so I figure, we'll just hop on Threads. There's enough of a community fan base there, I think. And same with Instagram. So you could follow us on social media if you want to stay up to date on the show and just hear other things about the show as time goes on. Until next time, thank you all for listening. I have been Wolfe.
And I have been Brennan.
And tune in next time when we talk about football, feminism, and you.
Let's go. All right. Yes. See y'all next week.
Standing in the bookstore line, waiting for the bell to chime, so you can go to class.
Eventually, Britta admits to having made the crib sheet and faces... Oh. Damn it. I was trying to time that burp between, sentences, and then it just came out of nowhere.
You're good.
I'm sorry, guys. I love soda too much. I have, 3 drinks in front of me right now while we're recording.